They looked the part, sounded the part, and damn sure acted like they owned the place. I'm talking midnight blue uniforms, pressed so sharp they could cut glass, badges that glinted menacingly in the weak porch light, and that flat, dead-eyed cop stare that makes your stomach drop faster than a bad elevator. One insistent rap, then two, before a fist hammered against the solid oak, rattling the whole doorframe down to its foundations. My dogs, usually calm sentinels, went absolutely ballistic, a frantic symphony of barks and growls. I didn't need to ask why. Peeking through the slats of the blinds, my eyes confirmed what my gut already screamed, a black and white Tahoe, idling silently, its spotlight fixed on my cabin like a predatory eye, illuminating every imperfection. Two guys, big, clean-shaven, and already wearing gloves, which felt all kinds of wrong, stood on my porch. My mind immediately flashed to the statistics I'd seen. Nationwide, police impersonation home invasions are up a staggering 24% since 2020. And where do most of them happen? Rural zip codes, places like mine, where backup is 30 miles of winding gravel road away. They bet on isolation. They bet on fear. But they bet wrong. I didn't open the door. Not a chance in hell. Instead, I quietly, deliberately, thumbed the safety off the pistol tucked securely behind my back. It was a familiar weight, a cold comfort. Then I spoke, my voice calm but firm, cutting through the thick pine of the door. "What's the nature of your business?" The taller one, without missing a beat, flashed a gold badge so fast it was almost a blur, a cheap parlor trick. U.S. Marshals, fugitive apprehension. "Open up." His partner's hand, gloved and tense, hovered near his holster, a silent, menacing promise. But a few things immediately struck me as off, glaring red flags waving in my mind. No crackle of a radio, no shoulder mic visible, definitely no body cam. And that's when my heartbeat, which had been thrumming a frantic rhythm, actually slowed. That's a classic tell. Real cops, they don't jump straight to the badge flash and demands. They give you a case number, a supervisor's name, something, anything that can be verified. I stalled, buying myself precious seconds. "Got a warrant?" The tall guy sighed, a theatrical huff of impatience, like I just asked him to donate a kidney. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way." That line, straight out of some B-movie script, cemented my suspicions. Real warrants come with paperwork, not cheap threats. I smiled then, a tight, humorless curve of my lips, and thanked them, telling them I'd just call the county sheriff's office to confirm their identity. The shorter one took a step forward, his boot landing squarely on my welcome mat. His weight shifted onto the ball of his foot, ready to push. That's when I knew this wasn't some unfortunate mistake, some misunderstanding. This was a hunt, and I was the prey they thought they'd cornered. Let's rewind about 12 hours, shall we? I'd driven up to this cabin, my sanctuary, specifically to chase silence. No cell signal, no nosy neighbors, no urban nonsense. Just the quiet hum of the forest and the rhythmic creak of the old pines. I'm 6'2", 240, a solid block of muscle earned through years of discipline. Ex-Army, specifically a combat engineer, and now a current firearms instructor. My skin tells stories, covered in tattoos from collarbone to knuckles, most of them souvenirs from deployments, permanent reminders of places and faces I'll never forget. And then there's the big grizzly across my ribs, a fearsome beast that my niece, bless her heart, colored in with a crayon the very first time she saw it, turning a symbol of ferocity into a heartwarming memory. I'm a simple man, really. I like the clang of weight plates, the satisfying heft of a long rifle, and conversations that get straight to the point. My cabin, my fortress, sits at the very end of a logging road that's notorious for eating tires for breakfast. But it's beautiful, rugged, and mine. I've got solar panels humming quietly, a deep well providing crystal clear water, enough canned beans stockpiled to survive a zombie rom-com apocalypse, complete with all the emotional baggage. Just that afternoon, I was out resetting the tripwire alarm on the porch, a deceptively simple setup of fishing line strung between trees, connected to a couple of beer cans filled with pebbles. It's old school but effective, And that's when I noticed them. Fresh tire tracks, cutting deep into the soft earth. Wide, aggressive tread. Definitely not mine. And certainly not the mailman's beat-up sedan. I logged in my mind. A mental note added to my ever-present threat assessment. Then locked the main gate, securely behind me. Back inside, I went back to the familiar, almost meditative task of cleaning my .308, the heavy rifle a comforting presence in my hands. People call it paranoia, but I call it a survival trait. It's only paranoia if nothing actually happens, right? Tonight, it was looking less and less like paranoia. Back to the porch, then. Tall guy, clearly losing patience, tried the handle. Locked. He rattled it. A futile gesture against solid wood and steel. Short guy muttered something under his breath, too low to catch every word. But my eyes, trained to read subtle cues, picked up garage and back door. Standard pincer movement. They weren't just guessing. They had a plan, a methodology. My heart hammered, but my movements were fluid, practiced. I backpedaled through the living room, my hand instinctively reaching for the pump shotgun mounted above the stone fireplace. The cool, smooth wood of the stock, the familiar weight of the barrel. I racked it once, a loud, metallic clack that echoed through the cabin. The sound, amplified by the log walls, traveled like a church bell ringing in a quiet valley. They heard it. I heard their breathing quicken, a subtle shift in the night air. No doubt, that sound was a universal language. As I moved, I hit the silent alarm on my phone, *9*, a macro I'd coded years ago after a close call, a break-in attempt that taught me valuable lessons. It blasts texts to my buddy Marcus, a county deputy, and simultaneously uploads the security camera feed directly to cloud storage. A green check mark appeared on my screen. Upload complete. Good. Evidence secured. Help on the way. Even if it was a long way off. I edged toward the kitchen, where a side window offered me a perfect 45-degree angle on their Tahoe. Its license plate was covered with a black shroud, a cheap, amateurish attempt at concealment. Amateur hour, sure, but their confidence worried me more than their competence. A confident amateur, especially one with malicious intent, can be far more dangerous than a bumbling professional. I sprinted to the back mudroom, the rough floorboards cold beneath my bare feet. The window there, usually a peaceful view of the woods, now offered a tactical vantage point. I saw a short guy, boots crunching on the frosted grass, circling around the cabin, clearly looking for another entry point. I cracked the window just enough to poke the barrel of my AR-15 through, the cold metal a stark contrast to the warmth of my breath. The click of the safety, a crisp, precise sound, was audible even to me. Stop right there. He looked up, his eyes widening as he saw the small, red lasered, settle squarely on his sternum. His hand shot up, empty, in a gesture of surrender. No weapon visible. He backpedaled quickly. Tall guy, meanwhile, was on his phone, his voice a low, urgent murmur, probably calling their getaway driver, or maybe even their real accomplices, the ones who hadn't shown their faces yet. I keyed the PA mic I'd wired to an old CB radio up in the loft, a relic I'd repurposed for just such an occasion. My voice boomed out, amplified and distorted, echoing off the trees, carrying far into the dark woods. You are being recorded. Every move you make. Leave the property now, and you won't be shot. They hesitated, caught between their bravado and the very real threat. Tall guy, recovering some of his bluster, yelled back, "You just committed assault on a federal officer." I almost laughed out loud. Assault requires physical contact. I'd only rearranged my drywall and their sense of security. I calmly replied, my voice cutting through the speaker. Title 18, Section 911. Impersonating a federal officer carries up to 3 years in federal prison. You sure you want to double down on that? Silence. Absolute heavy silence. Knowledge, I've always found, is a weapon too. And sometimes it's the most effective one. Then, an engine revved outside, a different sound than the Tahoe. A beat-up truck, clearly their backup vehicle, raced down the drive, headlights off, a shadow amongst shadows. 2 more guys bailed out, both in matching khaki cargo pants and black polos that screamed police in cheap yellow lettering. One cradled what looked like an AR pistol, the other a beanbag shotgun. They wore plate carriers, sure, but there were no agency patches, no name tapes, nothing to identify them as legitimate law enforcement. My stomach knotted, a cold, hard ball of dread. 4 against 1 now, in low light, with multiple angles of attack. The odds had just shifted dramatically. I backed slowly into the hallway, my eyes never leaving the window, and flipped a breaker that killed all the exterior lights. The cabin plunged into darkness, a sudden, absolute blackness that swallowed the yard. My night vision monocle, usually hanging innocently on a coat hook, was now strapped to my head, and I switched on its IR laser. The world outside transformed into a surreal landscape of greens and blacks, shadows and thermal signatures. I whispered to my dogs, who were still agitated but now strangely quiet. Quiet. And they obeyed, their hackles still raised, but not a sound escaping them. I cracked the front window again, just a sliver, angled the AR barrel through the frame, and waited. The rule of 3, a fundamental principle of combat. If they breach, I drop the point man, transition immediately to the next threat, and reload behind cover. I breathe out slow, a controlled exhalation, watching the IR laser settle, a tiny red beacon of intent. They fanned out, stacking on the porch, textbook room entry stack. It looked like they'd watched a few too many YouTube videos. The problem for them was they were silhouetted against the weak moonlight, and I, in my green-tinged world, was not. The first guy, the one with the AR pistol, kicked the couch aside. It snagged on the splintered wood of the doorframe, a small but noisy hang-up. The second guy tossed something inside, a flashbang. It clattered on the floor, hissed ominously, but it was a cheap fake. No blinding magnesium flash, just a shower of sparks and a puff of smoke. I didn't flinch. My IR was already centered on the lead knee of the couch kicker. I squeezed the trigger. The AR barked a sharp, concussive report, and the brass casing ejected, tinkling off the wall behind me. He dropped, screaming, clutching his thigh. One down, non-lethal, but definitely out of the fight. The others scattered off the porch, cursing, shouting in confusion. I heard someone yell, "He's got nods." Night observation devices. Guess they didn't expect a civilian to have those kinds of toys. I transitioned smoothly to the side window, my weapon tracking, and spotted tall guy dragging his wounded buddy toward the tree line. I fired twice, deliberately, into the dirt right at their feet. The rounds kicked up dust, a clear warning. They immediately abandoned the wounded man and sprinted into the darkness. The wounded guy, groaning, began to crawl, leaving a dark, glistening trail in the frost. I keyed the PA mic again, my voice ringing out, cold and clear. Next group gets center mass. No takers. The engine revs of their getaway truck faded down the hill, leaving behind profound silence, broken only by the hurt man's pained groans. I kept the muzzle of my AR trained on him and called out, "Where's your med kit?" He mumbled, "Truck." I told him to toss it slowly, or he'd lose the other leg. He complied, a small, white first aid kit skittering across the frozen ground. Then, finally, the distant wail of sirens echoed through the valley, a sound that, for once, was a welcome symphony. Marcus, along with 2 other county units. I flipped a breaker, flooding the yard with light, an abrupt return to the ordinary. Deputies stacked up, real uniforms, real radios crackling with official chatter, the blue and red lights painting the cabin in a frantic, pulsating glow. I stepped onto the porch, hands high, shotgun pointed skyward, safety on. Marcus knew me, knew my capabilities, but protocol is protocol. They cuffed me. A quick, professional pat-down, then uncuffed me just as fast once they saw the wounded faker and the collection of fake badges scattered on the porch. I handed over the security SD card for my cameras and the PA mic, all here, time-stamped. I said, my voice still a little hoarse. EMTs arrived, their lights flashing, and carefully loaded the wounded imposter onto a stretcher. I gave a statement, short and factual. recounting the events with a detached precision. The deputies found the Tahoe abandoned 2 miles down the road, its plate stolen out of Denver 2 weeks prior. Inside, rolls of duct tape, zip ties, and a coil of plastic sheeting. A complete home invasion kit. My blood ran cold. If I'd opened that door politely, if I hadn't trusted my gut, if I hadn't been prepared, I'd be a missing person poster right now, another statistic. Marcus finally uncuffed me, a grim look on his face, then clapped my shoulder, a gesture of camaraderie and relief. Hell of a night, man. I tried to laugh, but it came out shaky, raw, uneven sound. We walked the property together, Marcus surveying the damage, me just taking it all in. The dogs, finally sensing the immediate danger had passed, relaxed, their tails beginning to wag tentatively. The sun was just starting to pink the ridge of the mountains, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, signaling the dawn of a new day. I felt every bruise from hitting the floor, every decibel of sound still ringing in my ears, a phantom echo of the shotgun blast. But I also felt something else, something deeper, the raw, primal satisfaction of a boundary drawn and held. I hadn't asked for this dance, hadn't invited these predators to my doorstep, but I sure as hell knew the steps. So here's what I learned, distilled and gift-wrapped for you, straight from the heart of the woods. Uniforms are just costumes until verified. Don't ever just take them at face value. Ask for credentials, demand a supervisor's name and badge number, and insist on a marked unit showing up. Real law enforcement officers, the good ones, expect you to ask questions. They understand the need for verification, especially when they're showing up unannounced in the middle of the night. It's part of their job to establish legitimacy, not just demand compliance. If they get agitated or refuse to provide details, that's your biggest red flag right there. Trust that gut feeling. Keep a layered defense. Overkill is seriously underrated. Don't rely on just one thing. Lights deter. Cameras record. Dogs bark and alert. Noise, like my tripwire or that shotgun rack, disorients and reveals your presence. And yes, a legal, well-maintained firearm that you train with quarterly, not just occasionally, is your ultimate equalizer. Think of it like an onion. Peel back one layer, and there's another, tougher one underneath. My solar power kept the lights and cameras running. The well meant I wasn't dependent on public utilities. Every single piece played a part in making my cabin less of an easy target. Cloud backup your cameras. Seriously, do it. If these guys had breached successfully and yanked my DVR or NVR, all that precious evidence would have been gone. But because my system was constantly uploading to cloud storage, every single second of their arrival, their demands, their attempted breach, and their eventual retreat was safely tucked away, instantly accessible to the real authorities. It's a small investment for massive peace of mind and undeniable proof. Know the law. It's a weapon you can wield. Impersonating a federal officer isn't just a petty crime. It's a serious federal offense. When you can quote the statute number, when you can articulate your rights, predators realize you're not just some random, vulnerable civilian. You become an informed, dangerous adversary. It flips the script. They think they're intimidating you with their fake authority. But when you hit them with real legal knowledge, you expose their fraudulence and make them question their entire operation. It makes them realize they've picked the wrong house. Trust the vibe. Always. If your gut tells you something is off, even if everything looks right, listen to it. That primal instinct is a finely tuned survival mechanism. It's better to grab the shotgun and assess from a position of strength than to innocently peek through the peephole and find yourself face to face with a nightmare. That initial feeling, the subtle unease, is your body screaming a warning. Ignore it at your peril. I'll rebuild the doorframe tomorrow. The physical damage is superficial, easily mended. Tonight, though, I'm sitting on the porch, dogs at my boots, their warm bodies a comfort against my legs. The stars are blazing, bright and indifferent, as if nothing out of the ordinary happened here tonight. But something did. For wannabe wolves, dressed in sheep's clothing, met a grizzly in his den, and they limped home with their tails firmly between their legs, probably still nursing wounds and shattered illusions of easy prey. Spread the word. Play dress up at your own risk. And if you ever find yourself on a dark porch, facing a badge that just doesn't feel right, remember, you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to defend your ground, your home, your family. And sometimes, you're allowed to show the wolves exactly who the real alpha lives here. Stay sharp, stay safe, and if you like this one, hit that like button. Drop a comment with your own close call story. I love hearing them, and subscribe for more tales from the edge. I'll be back in the next video with the full legal aftermath and the security upgrades I added around here. Spoiler alert, claymores are still off the table mostly, but I found something almost as fun. Until then, keep your powder dry and your line in the sand visible.